And a good Thursday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you with breaking news tonight on this Thursday night, June the 12th, 2025. We're grateful to have everybody. Just within the last half hour, we've gotten word that there has been a preemptive strike in Iran. Buildings are shaking, and we've got Leslie Millwee on the phone. James Akers is coming up here at 9:30 tonight, and we've got a pre-recorded interview with Ruth Goodenheim. We just talked to Ruth today about this, and we may get to that tonight. But I want to welcome my dear friend. I don't want to be short with her because she is right here at the beginning tonight. Leslie Millwee, my dear buddy, precious friend. We've known each other a long time. Leslie, good to have you tonight. I was going to talk about other things, but I think the news is sort of taking over what we're going to. It's taking over what we're going to talk about tonight. We've got war in the Middle East, my friend, and I think that things are about to get real. What's your thoughts on all this?
Well, I wasn't too surprised because if you heard President Trump today at his news conference, I think he literally said this. I mean, I felt like he was saying, war was imminent.
Yes.
And, it's funny too. I'm watching a couple of the different news organizations and they're saying, the U.S. was not part of this or whatever. Of course, I don't think that. I think it's wonderful that you probably have Pete Hegseth and Trump, talking about this, and I'm thankful. I'm grateful. I think you've got to go in there. You've got to get rid of all of those nuclear sites. There's 11 of them, I think, where they know for sure that there's nuclear weapons. I think you have to do that. I think Israel's going to get hit, later today or tomorrow. I'm sure we're on the radar, but I think it's something we had to do. I mean, they had to do that for their own future and to keep their country, because we know what they wanted. Iran has always wanted to obliterate Israel, so
yes,
it
absolutely.
Really wasn't much of a choice.
No, I'm with you, and Ruth Goodenheim echoed that today. We were talking to her. She's in Jerusalem tonight. She lives there. She's a dual citizen of America and Israel, and we said that almost verbatim, that there are no good options here. And I think that I'm with you. I saw President Trump's body language last night, even when they asked him about this, and he just solemnly said at the Kennedy Center thing, he said, Iran, there's under no circumstance that they're going to get a nuclear weapon. And I read several reports today out of the World Israel News that said that all Israel was waiting for was a green light from the Trump administration to do what they needed to do. And I know that the diplomatic position is that America's not involved in this, but let's just face facts. We're Southerners around here. Me and you are Southerners. We can sort of read between the lines. America's very much involved in this, because I don't think Bibi Netanyahu would have done it without Trump's sort of head nod. But Leslie, I'm with you. I don't think there was any way that you can get around this. Look, I know this is going to create a ripple effect, and I would caution all interest in the Middle East tonight. I would caution even us here in America, our cities. Look, there's no telling how many proxies are in this nation tonight, thanks to this open, feckless border that we've had.
I know.
And it's very concerning. It's a dangerous situation. And I think with this other event coming up this weekend, this No Kings event, I think that this country is ripe for a very dangerous weekend. And it's Father's Day, and I'm going to be traveling to see my son. But I tell you, it does put a pause on this. I was telling a young man, I was on a Chris Reed show today, and I was telling him during the Biden years, I'm not a scaredy cat by any means. I don't walk around thinking the sky's going to fall and looking for a boogeyman under every chair. And I'm a very positive, upbeat person, and I just don't get scared at stuff because, again, that's, I guess, the Southerner in us. We just face things. But there were times in the Biden years that I would lay my head down at night, and I would be truly concerned about the safety of my family, the safety of this nation.
Absolutely.
And when Trump got elected, the anxiety over that sort of left. But I think tonight, it's a reminder of how unstable this world is. I think we're seeing it in L.A. tonight. We're seeing it in Seattle, Washington. We're seeing it in Salt Lake City. We're definitely seeing it in New York City. We're seeing it in Chicago. And I think that, these things are all playing into this situation, that this is going to be a long summer in the United States of America. But I would caution folks tonight to be very alert. I'm concerned about our interests at these naval bases and these bases overseas tonight, and I'm sure that the alerts have been high. And I saw something today, and I'll give it back to you. The embassies, when I saw the report today out of Breitbart that we had started evacuating our embassies in some of these Arab countries, I sort of had a gut feeling that we were within hours of something that Israel was about to do. And sure enough, I wasn't wrong on that one.
No, and they were saying earlier that there are 40,000 troops over there in and around the area at our bases. So we have got substantial manpower there. Has it always been that much, or has there been an influx? lately. I don't know. I have to assume there has been, and yeah, I think we're probably in for it too. I think you're right. There are probably so many bad actors in our nation from there, Middle Easterners, that only want death for us, and this is going to light them.
Yeah, that's my concern tonight, and I think we need to realize that Iran does not have to hit the U.S. mainland to do damage. They've got many a proxy here, and look at what happened to Israel on October the 7th, Leslie. That was not a direct invasion by a foreign power. That was an invasion from within. That came from their own Gaza Strip. And you look at the carnage that Hamas did in just a matter of days down there. 1,200 people were killed, numerous hostages taken, the brutality of what happened. And I'm just going to go out on a limb tonight. There's more than 1,200 hostiles that are in this country. I mean, there are more.
Oh, sure.
There's more hostiles than that. I meant to say not 1,200, but there's more hostiles in America than there are Hamas soldiers that pulled that crap off on October the 7th. And look, if I salute Bibi Netanyahu's courage. I know that he gets a lot of bad press, and a lot of it is this faux pas, this hatred of the Jews that's in this country, and this blatant disregard for God's word, this blatant disregard for the knowledge of the Bible, and the blatant disregard of basically understanding what's going on in the Middle East tonight because of spiritual and just political ignorance. And that's all it is. And I've got no problem saying that tonight. But I think that Bibi has done everything to wait this out. I had Jeemes Akers on last week twice, and we talked about this very thing, that Bibi cannot wait forever. And I think he has showed great restraint in doing this. And I know he's going to get lambasted and bombed in the press. I'm telling you, I can only imagine what the left-wing media is going to say in this country and around the world. And I can almost hear the echo chamber right now on CNN and the UN and MSNBC and the Crap News Network and the Constant Bullshit Network and the All But Crap Network and the Nothing But Crap Network, that Israel's provoked this war. This was not provoked by Israel. Iran did it by not giving up aspirations for a nuclear bomb, Leslie. That was a non-starter, no-brainer. They cannot get that bomb. They just can't do it.
No, we can't allow it for future world peace. I mean, that's it.
What is your biggest concern? Where do you think the greatest threat's going to be?
Well, I have a good friend that's Jewish, that's from New York. He's been in San Francisco for many, many years. And he seems to think, along with all this unrest that's happening over the weekend, that there will be some kind of attacks on the U.S. after this. And let me just say that I so agree about the Bibi Netanyahu thing. And I thought about that after listening to Trump today. And what came to my mind immediately is Bibi Netanyahu knew what a disaster Biden was. And if he attacked before Trump was back in office, then his chances of success would be much less.
Bingo.
He waited until Trump, and thank the good Lord he did get in. And I know that Israel knew, okay, we now have a friend. We have Hegseth. We have the cabinet. We have Trump, most importantly. This has to be done now. And I think he was just biding the weeks until everything was set. And I have to believe that. Now, what would have happened if Harris had gotten in? Oh, my God, I don't know.
Well, no, if Harris would have gotten in, she would have basically gave the coordinates. She would have put a phone call into Tehran tonight saying, hey, heads up, Israel's about to attack you. That's what she would have done.
Absolutely. Oh,
that's exactly what she would have done.
Well, if you don't think God isn't so involved in the United States of America, that should be a direct correlation. You should be able to say, God put Trump in office to help save his people. I mean, that was one of the first things I thought of today. God is amazing in the fact that he's been setting this up for years and years. We know why he wasn't there in 2020. We know God had important, world-saving work for him to start in 2025.
Yeah. Well, I think the timing on this, I don't think you could have stated it any better had this happened any time sooner. And look, I'm not trying to blame Obama. Iran has been evil for a long time. Look, ever since that 1979 event when the Ayatollah Khomeini and the Islamic Revolution hit this world, and then if you think about the dates of that, 1979, and you had the advent of Reagan. Reagan gets our hostages home within a matter of days before he takes office because they didn't want to mess with Ronald Reagan.
No.
And then you have 9/11, and this country got its eyes opened on 9/11 fully of this danger of Islam and this danger of Islamic jihadism. And Leslie, I've got a deep feeling tonight that we're about to get another lesson that Islam has not gone anywhere, that this jihadism has not gone, and the media has tried to convince us of that. And what's scarier tonight is that you've got jihadis basically running Congress. Many of them are in the freaking halls of Congress, and senators and representatives that are making policy against the United States and pushing and in support of the very people. And I got a political question for you. How do the Democrats play this up? Because, see, they're already looking like a bunch of fools supporting the rioting and supporting the gangbangers and the thugs and the gangs and the illegals. They're supporting lawlessness now. So now do you expect them to come out and start blaming Israel for this and blaming Trump and supporting the jihadis that are basically going to bomb the you-know-what out of somebody tonight?
I know without a shadow of a doubt that's what they'll do. And I think they're going to downplay or not mention or bring up the fact of what happened in October to the Jewish whole country of being attacked, but yet Israel is bad because they're doing this. They want war. And my God, you would think anybody with half a brain would, do that, but there are enough non-believers and just haters of Trump. I'm every day I'm more amazed at Trump derangement syndrome, that these people can support gangbangers and murderers and rapists and wife beaters. I mean, the whole thing without any thought that they are harming their country, they're harming the world. We've had open borders, and yet they don't even want the criminals to go back. On what planet is that normal reasoning or a thought process? None.
No, it doesn't make any sense, does it? But do you think that this plays against them, or do you think that there's enough? I'm going to use your term, ignorant Christians and ignorant people out there. We got other words for them, but this is a family show, and McDonald's trying to behave himself tonight. Let's just say these individuals that my mom would call fuckers, which is fine, outstanding citizens. That's what her title was for him when my mom was living. And I always used to laugh at that, but it's about the truth. But let's just say I got a mom in Jacksonville, a dear second mom, and that's what she always calls me when she sees me. She says, "How you doing, fucker?" And I'm like, "Hey, good to see you, Mom." And my mom used to always tell me that's what that word meant, fine, outstanding citizens. I got a bad feeling that we got a lot of fine, outstanding citizens that come down on the side of the Dems, Leslie. And it's sad tonight because anybody with common sense would know and look at the moral clarity of this and see what's evil and what's not. But I guarantee you there will be posts tomorrow made by some people that's going to say Israel is the aggressor again tonight. Now look at here, Israel wants to bring America into this war. When America did everything they could, they met with Iran for over 6 months. Ever since Trump got into office, they've been trying to negotiate a deal. They would not negotiate. And Ruth Goodenheim said it today. She said, "Look, you can't trust them. You can't trust the Ayatollahs. I don't care what Iran puts on the table. You might as well just toss it in the trash because they're not going to uphold their end of the bargain. They didn't uphold the $150 billion on the tarmac. Think about it. We paid these jackanapes $150 billion in cash to not get a bomb, and they've been trying to get a bomb ever since.
Well, and whether it was for optics or sincerity, I don't know which, but Steve Wyckoff is over there right now trying to negotiate with the Iranians. I'm assuming he's in Israel somewhere, trying to negotiate. I mean, that to me speaks good faith, and maybe that, like I said, is optical so that it can, we can say with a straight face, hey, the United States was really not involved in this. But I think you have a warrior like Pete Hegseth too. I mean, that must give Netanyahu comfort. It gives me comfort because I'm with you. I think there will be attacks. I think it's going to be, and they want chaos. That's what these dark money is doing right now. They're trying to cause chaos in our country on every level. Immigration, Israel, the economy, everything they want to go after. And, you've got Alex Soros now is going to take up the helm for Daddy.
Yeah. Do you believe there's any Iranian money behind these protests in L.A.?
I haven't given that much thought, but I mean, my goodness, why would there not be? There must be, let me just say, Hamas money, or why would it not be them? I mean, I think there is funding going on that we will never know and never will be able to know. And I think you're right. I mean, who is funding these things? Who is bringing hammers in pallets with bricks to these street corners and allowing people that when the bricks go away, when the police take the bricks away, they literally break off concrete from the curb so they can throw them at cops?
Yeah.
That isn't something a blue-haired idiot thinks about when he's heading out to the riot, that he's going to bring his hammer to hammer down the curb. That is some organization.
Well, I want to say something, and I know that there are some out there that will disagree with this a little bit, and it's fine if they do. We don't hold it against them for being wrong, but it's okay. I think that our attention, it's amazing that our attention for the last probably, 3 weeks to a month, maybe 2 months, has been on these Epstein files. And again, the little program I was on today, a fine young man, we're going to have him on our show, Chris Reed. It was such an honor to be on his network today. And I was telling him, I said, we've been so consumed with something about a man that's died. And granted, there's probably some things in those files that could probably put people in jail. You'd think that it would put people in jail, but at this rate, as our mutual friend Juanita Broderick says, right now it's a 50-50 shot that anybody's going to see any justice off of that. And but see, our attention, Leslie, this is how the world gets, and this is what I know that our side is not perfect. The Dems are insane, but our side tends to get very, and I hate to use this term because I don't want this to be taken offensively by those that actually have ADHD. But I think that we have attention deficit disorder on the right. We get so caught up in these little nitpicking things, and we get caught up in these crusades about something, and our distractions over here. And see, this hits us tonight, and everybody's in shock. And we've been sort of warning gently that this could be coming. But everybody, and the questions we're getting a lot is all about the Epstein files, and I see the tweets, and it's not just I got a great group of folks that listen to us. Not so much in my audience, but I'm talking about the X world, the Rumble world, the Twitter world, the Telegram world. Everybody has just been consumed with that, And then we had the riots that erupted out of nowhere, and we realized, hey, the Epstein files don't really make a what, because we got our cities burning down again this summer. And now this happens, and now we're in greater danger. I just hope that these things shake us to a place that we get our focus on what matters. Because this matters tonight. This is dangerous stuff. Whether Epstein hung himself, ultimately, it's just going to be a T-shirt. I don't give whether he hung himself or not. The man was a pedophile. That's not a news flash. Ghislaine Maxwell knows everything. That's not a newsflash. Bill Clinton is a homophobe, a homopedophile in a blue dress. That's not a newsflash, you know?
Right.
And you know that. I mean, your dealings with him and what you've had to deal with. So I don't think that those things in the scope of what we're dealing with tonight, this is a serious news story. This is a serious thing that all Americans should be waking up and shaking themselves to tonight, that we are under great danger. Now, whether Israel does enough to stop Iran from doing it directly, that's another question. This is an ongoing operation, and we'll get the details of how many nuclear reactors were hit and that. But people forget that they have allowed this open border for 4 years, Leslie, and I've said it a while ago and I'll say it again. There are bad hombres that have already embedded themselves in our society tonight. They're here. They're not coming anymore. They're here.
I know.
And if just a handful of Hamas terrorists did what they did on October the 7th, what would, let's just say, an army of 1,500 or 2,000 could do to this country? You're talking a massive event, just like happened in Israel on October the 7th, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I don't think it's a matter of if, it's when. There will be, are we getting the chatter? Are we on high alert for this? I have to think so. I was listening to Dan Bongino the other night about kind of a little bit about this, and I think he is on point, but he makes his great point was, we can't be wrong ever. They can mess up 99 times out of 100. We have to always be 100% correct. So there's no way we could know who's here. We don't know how many people are here. I heard somebody say yesterday there's probably closer to 40 million illegals here over the last
That's what I heard
25
too.
or 30 years.
That's what I've heard.
Think about that.
That's an army. Leslie, that's enough to take down the country. Do you realize how many people you're talking about there? That's not even the population of some nations.
Oh, I know. And, if you're out there, I couldn't believe it in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was one person standing on the side of the road at the busiest part of Tulsa today with a sign that said, "You racist pigs, I live for Palestine."
Yeah, I wish he would go do that in Palestine and say that in another country and do that kind of crap and see what happens to him.
And there was a reason there's only one in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I don't think she'll last very long. But I thought, we're not safe anywhere. But these people that are holding up the Mexican flag and all of, free Palestine and all this, if it's so great, go back. Go be a Mexican citizen.
Well, I would challenge them, Leslie. Ruth Goodenheim pointed this out today, too, and I can't wait to play her interview. We're going to try to play it tonight if we don't run out of time. But Ruth was saying to exactly what I've always said, too, is that let's go fly somebody's national flag in one of these other countries. Take an American flag down to Mexico and wave it in the streets and say, blank Mexico, and see what happens to you. Take it to Cuba. Take it to the Middle East. I dare you go to North Korea. All you communist fascists that think this country's so bad will carry your carcasses to North Korea. Wave an American flag and see what Kim Jong-Young tries to do to you. And see what Turkey does to you. And see what the Arab nations do to you. Go pull your crap in Palestine. Go do that and see what happens to you. And it's so true. I heard something today, and it was so true. We're the only country. See, our flag, Leslie, represents freedom. Our flag represents the fact that we give them the right to do this crap in our country because, see, we're different from other nations. Other nations won't let them do it, but America does. That's what makes America America. But they're taking advantage of it. And the way I look at it is this. You come over to this country and you start usurping the government of this country, the U.S. government. You start threatening lives. You start putting people in danger. Your free speech ends. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Your A double blank is going back to your country or you're going to jail and you're not going to collect go. You're not going to pass go. You're not going to collect $200. You're going to go carry your carcass to jail. And that's how I feel about it.
It's like this Abrego stuff. why does he have any due process? He's not a citizen.
He's not a
broke
citizen.
into our country, and he's committed tens of, probably hundreds of crimes, trafficking, wife beating, you name it. This man is a bad dude with he is part of a bad gang. There are no such thing as good gangs, but just the point that it's the worst. And these people want this man to have the freedom and the right to counsel and due process that we get as Americans. Are you kidding me? What in the world? And you and I could not walk in to the country of France or even England or Scotland and start waving our flag and say,
even those nations like that are not even which we would consider third world countries, you couldn't go to any nation and do that. Lisa, they'd arrest you for disturbing the peace. At the very least, they'd arrest you for creating riots and disturbing their peace.
Absolutely. Germany is arresting journalists right now.
They are.
So that's bull. Why? And we have rules. It would be different if this was quasi gray area. It's not gray area. It's very defined in the Constitution. Very defined. And the founding fathers did that for a reason. And while we have free speech, they don't have free speech. They're not part of the United States. Why do we have to honor them with our free speech? It doesn't cover them. So this crap and watching Hakeem, Jeffrey?
Yeah, isn't he just a real winner? Real winner.
Isn't he a peach?
He's a peach. Yeah, we call him that. We got another word for him, but we use the word peach tonight because we're Southerners.
I mean, just these people. Maxine Waters, I just want to go, God love you. Your wig is still too tight. Please loosen it up so your brain can function on any level.
Come on.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I mean, Mad Maxine, she's just plain blank crazy now. I'm sorry. She's just plain blank crazy. But this is the other issue. Leslie, where are the people tonight that are voting these people in? Because these people don't just fall out of heaven and onto these chairs in the representative house and the House of Representatives and the Senate. They're elected. They're voted in. And that goes back to the populace. It goes back to the voting people and why people should vote and not sit at home and primary these people. Go after these Dems in the voting polls. That's how we do things here in America. You don't like the way things are being done, you vote people out. But we just keep voting these same demagogues in, and we keep getting this same crap like we're getting tonight.
Well, and you look at, it's Minnesota and Michigan. These places are the most heavily concentrated Muslim places in the United States. And that is by design. These people make communities just like we do. But they came here. This has been an ongoing problem for 25 years that we allowed these people, or 30 years, to come in. Many of them are second-generation Muslims that hate America. They were born here even, but they hate America, and many of them are not born here.
That's so
but they're
true.
Devout Muslim, and they're going to continue to vote in those incredibly blue areas. We did get rid of Cori Bush. I can't believe she was ever elected in Missouri. It blows my mind.
I can't believe Crockett was elected in Texas. I mean, think about it. Texas is one of the most reddest states of the union. How does this Crockett woman get elected in a red state like Texas?
I don't. The same way, I guess, the guy that ran against Greg Abbott, I can't even think of his name.
Beto O'Rourke. Beto.
Yeah. How do those people get in office? How do they run for office? How do they get notoriety? And they're just dumb as a box of rocks. Who do they appeal to? My husband says there's just a lot of stupid people, and I think that's true, but I think more importantly there are a lot of misinformed people. And
I think it's
that's
both.
Our greatest, yeah, I do too.
But Leslie, I'm going to have to say something. I don't know if it's I know that there are some misinformed, but I think that in reality there are people that are informed and they still feel this way. That scares me worse than the uninformed. I can understand being uninformed and not knowing I get that. You know, I have a lot of sympathy for folks like that. But I don't have a lot of sympathy for people that are informed and they still go down this road and they believe what's happening tonight. They have no moral clarity. I know some spiritual voices that have never condemned October the 7th yet. I know some
Wow.
spiritual voices that have not come out this week and condemned this violence in our country. And all they do is push conspiracy talk and push this crazy left-wing loon bomb stuff. And we on the right make some of these left people look almost moderate with some of the crazy crap that we put out and we believe. And again, that is a lack of moral clarity. That's not even being informed. That's just people
I know.
that's lost their mind. They've just lost their natural born mind and they're on spiritual meth. And this is the McFiles, and I guess these opinions are mine, so I guess I can get away with saying that tonight. But I want to ask you a couple more questions, and we're going to let you go. I got James Akers coming up behind you.
Sure.
I do want to ask you how you felt today about that hearing with the sanctuary city governors. That's what I was wanting to talk to you about tonight. Hochul, Waltz, and Feitzer pretty much had their backsides handed to them in Congress today. Not that it may do anything or make a difference, but I tell you what, they got these people on record basically defending the illegals. And I'm going to tell you something, the people of these states need to make a change at the top. Those 3 states need to make a change.
Yeah. Well, you know who looks so incredibly ignorant in all of these hearings? Kathy Hochul. I am so proud of Elise Stefanik. I had no idea she was that incredibly sharp, and I mean, she ate Kathy Hochul alive, and basically said you're responsible for the murder of these people because of these illegal aliens in your sanctuary state, basically. And I was so impressed with her. I don't know if she would have a shot at any kind of higher public office, or maybe they're holding her out for something in the Trump cabinet. I don't know, but she is as sharp as a tack. And once again, look at these hearings. Who makes sense? Who's normal? Who has any kind of direction and moral clarity? Clarity. Not them.
No, I'll agree. What did you think of the Padilla thing today with Christian Elm? He's out there claiming tonight that he didn't lunge at her and that she's lying. Every video I've seen looks like the man was lunging at her. Leslie, for God's sake, I mean, does he not understand that there is certain things called the internet and video of him being taken down? And, he was one of the voices that always was claiming nobody's above the law when it comes to Trump. Well, let me tell you something, Alex. You found out today that you ain't above the law either. And McIver has found that out. She's been indicted on 3 charges. It's a good world. It's a good day in America when that happens.
It is. It is. And that needed to happen. And I felt like he was very misleading when he came in. He wasn't representing himself as, any kind of office holder. He wasn't, making his position known. He came in as a thug and lunged at her. His whole idea was to scare her and to get on the radar.
Absolutely. And, well, it was an attention grab. No doubt about it. It was an attention grab.
Yeah, he probably, I love that they did that. I think it sent a message that we are going to take you down if you do anything. I think he was trying to intimidate and scare her, and I think she handed him one too. But she did talk to him later, but I don't know if I would have. I don't think he's worthy, but I think he's a thug too.
He is definitely a thug. There's no doubt about that. But anyway, listen, I want to just say thank you for coming on. I'm going to get you back on next week, maybe, again, and make you do this regular. I hate we have breaking news tonight. I wanted to talk to you about a lot of other things, but we will pick this up next week. I do want to ask you a final question. Have you been surprised that Bill has been back in the news, Clinton? It seemed like he was, he has all of a sudden been the, it's almost like Hillary's scared to say something. So Bill now is her mouthpiece for all of a sudden. Have you noticed that? I find that very interesting.
I am stunned, and the thing
I am
is,
too.
I don't think the Democrats want him there. He's not. and I'm saying this strictly from a political standpoint, he is not a psycho leftist. He is a centrist.
That's very true.
And he's always been a centrist. And they are not. Look what they're doing to David Hogg, too. Can't stand him, but at least he was new blood in a party of, 80-plus year-old people that are running this country. So, I think David Hogg saw himself as the future of the party. And I think he's giving himself too much credit. I don't think these old-timers are going to give up without a fight, and Bill Clinton is a perfect example of that.
I'm with you there.
Does he want to be relevant? I don't know. What is his motivation?
I don't know. That was why I was asking you, because I was curious what you had. I'm not sure what his motivation would be at this point. Because, look, the Democrats hate the Clintons.
I was going to say, he's not going to be listened to by them.
They're not going to. They look at him with as much disgust as they do Joe Biden right now. Yeah. And I think that if I was Bill and Hillary, I'd just retire, go back into the woodwork, keep my mouth shut. As Trump said,
do you think it's Obama maybe trying to level out this radical left, make him come in as the voice of reason? It's kind of a game plan to try to stabilize.
Everything's on the table. I would not doubt a thing. And Emily Ramos tonight says all this is a distraction. I think everything is a distraction right now. It's keeping our attention off these events that just happened. Breitbart just posted it. There's been a state of emergency declared in Israel at this hour. It's in the wee hours of the morning. It's about 3 or 4 in the morning, and it's a very serious situation over there. So Rubio's out there saying the U.S. is not involved. I wouldn't say anything, because I think people know that while we didn't specifically do this, I think we gave Israel the green light tonight. They got the green light they wanted because they wouldn't have done it. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Buddy, I love you. I appreciate you. And listen.
Love you too.
Hey, and I'll see you soon. Okay. Go Astros. Take care. Have a good night.
And Braves.
You too. Bye. Leslie Millwee, everybody. Grateful to have you. Listen, we're on an extended McFiles tonight. Let's see here. I want to just do this one thing. Got very serious breaking news tonight. I'm going to call Jeemes Akers and go ahead and get him on the line tonight. You're watching a very special live McFiles tonight. We're live at 9:45 in the East. Within the last few hours, we've gotten breaking news that Israel has attacked Iran. I was going to actually take tomorrow off, but we will be following this story into tomorrow. We may be up early in the morning, and we may be doing a Bible study. As we wasn't planning on doing it tomorrow, but we may be back, and then we'll be back on tomorrow night late to take your questions about this. We want to thank everybody for being with us tonight. I'm going to call Jeemes Akers now. James is a former CIA. He's done a lot of analysis and all on Iran and things of this nature, and he's also always our go-to guy with these foreign situations. And hello, sir. How are you? You're live on the air tonight. Very, very good to hear your voice tonight. How are you, my friend?
I am doing fine. I'm trying to keep track of all this that's going on with Israel striking Iran.
Yeah, I know. As the old saying goes,
on your show 2 weeks ago, right?
That's right. Well, as the saying goes, sometimes we got to stop meeting like this. People are going to talk. You're on my show more than I am, so I don't know if you're lobbying to be my new host or something. But it's it's good to see you tonight. Even though I did not forget your comment on the radio yesterday when you said the Braves were needed. We agreed that the Braves needed an exorcist and a priest and a lawyer. The Reds are actually going 500 or better baseball, so at least your baseball team's doing better than mine. But Betty, on a serious note, this is riveting news tonight, and so much we can unpack here. I want to get your thoughts in general first about the attack itself and what you do know and what you can update us on tonight, because there's so much conflicting reports already coming out of Tehran. And I'm sure when the smoke clears, we'll get the truth of what's happening. But it is definite that it's clear to me tonight that the green light that Israel was looking for from the United States came today, and they didn't hesitate.
No, they went in. Whether they had a green light or a yellow light
Yeah.
will be a matter of debate. But they had to act. There was something that the U.S. press, I think maybe the Wall Street Journal was the only press outlet that I saw that covered the story. The IAEA, which has over 20 years tried unsuccessfully to get Tehran to halt its nuclear development program. And they were the Iranians constantly stalled, lied, kept them from getting in. They finally threw up their hands this week and said, Iran is breaking all the rules and they're developing these weapons. The first time in 20 years that UN-sponsored organization told the truth, actually. And when they did that, the Ayatollah and the Iranian leadership doubled down. They said, not only are we going to build more facilities, but we're actually opening up a third facility, and we're speeding up the centrifuges, and we are going to develop as much atomic weaponry material as we can, and the world's not going to say or do anything about it. And so they just essentially thumbed their nose at Trump, at Witkoff, who has been an ineffective negotiator. He was due this weekend, I think, to have the sixth round of talks and has not accomplished anything. And they thumbed their nose at the Israelis. And Israel just said, well, if we have to go it alone, we're going in and do something. And this is not a one-day operation.
No, it's not.
It is going to be a multiple-day operation, and they sent in sorties of aircraft to hit Iran. Well, what about the sophisticated Soviet anti-aircraft systems? They're all in the border with Ukraine. The cream of the crop that Russia in previous years had sold to the Iranians. I think a lot of that material now has gone back to Russia for their own protection. So the Israeli jets had sort of freedom of action over Tehran skies. There are unconfirmed reports that they took out the head of the Iranian military and the Quds force, as well as several others. So it may be that they were acting on good intelligence, and when the upper hierarchy gathered, they knew where they were gathering and hit them as well. We'll know more about that over the days ahead. But this was a sophisticated military strike targeting both nuclear and missile guidance facilities and production facilities. And the Israelis are going to do this night after night. I think they're just going to pound them for the next several days.
All right, and I'm with you on that. My question to you, and this is maybe something that neither me nor you know, because a lot is going to weigh. We get the Israeli strike, but what do you think the Iranians are going to do in response? And do you think that there's any capability that Israel's going to leave them with any capability to make any kind of reaction? Because in fact, this afternoon I had an interview with Ruth Goodenheim, and while I was interviewing her, got an alert that the hospitals in central Israel had basically put out a directive to all the hospitals to be preparing for an emergency event. So Israel is bracing itself tonight for something. But James, I think that we need to remember too that we've got proxies here in the U.S. and we're not beyond the scope of Iran doing something here. They may not be able to send a missile across the Atlantic and attack us, but I will tell you what they can do. They can basically weaponize and engage these proxies and charge them to do and basically pull the trigger and say, okay, it's time to attack. Because that's how they did with Hamas. They were the arm. Hamas was the arm of Iran. Hezbollah was the arm of Iran to do what they've been doing to Israel. And people need to realize it doesn't mean that Iran, whether they can directly attack us or not, is ultimately not something you need to be concerned about. You need to be concerned about these proxies within the nation because they're going to be triggered now, and there's going to be a reason to do something. And I'm not trying to be Chicken Little and say the sky's falling tonight. Look, I know that Pete Hegseth and our Department of Defense is doing a lot of good things to protect us, but I think we need to be alert. I think there's a heightened sense of alertness that we need to have the next few days. And with this No King event coming up Saturday, look, all bets are off as to what could take place in these cities, even in these small towns across this country.
Well, and then there's a court ruling today that for Trump to turn control of the National Guard back to Governor Newsom in California. I mean, this stuff is just getting crazy. I agree with you that there are cells undoubtedly all across the country that could be triggered at a moment's notice. But it was interesting in the case of Hezbollah when Israel just absolutely dismantled Iran's strongest ally in the region, that they did not turn loose those cells. I think that's a very telling point to make as well. And so, you know, we may be overestimating Iran's reach, and of course, there's going to be much chest beating and promises of retribution, and we're going to have to wait and see just how serious it'll be, because in the past they have just done enough to show the world that that they have to do something to exact revenge for what has happened to them, and so my opinion is that's sort of the way it's going to be. The big leveling factor and the elephant in the room for the Iranian leadership is that Israel is setting on an uncounted number of Jericho, very sophisticated nuclear missiles. And if Iran does too much, you know, if they push the Jews absolutely to the wall, Israel's going to turn loose those Jerichos, and it would absolutely pulverize Iran. And so that is one of the decision elements that the Iranian leadership has to weigh when they decide, number one, how they're going to strike back, what level they're going to strike back, and based on past illustrations, whether any revenge strike is going to be effective against Israel.
Right.
And so there are a number we have described on your program in the past. There's this dance that goes on in the Middle East. All of these players know each other. intimately. We have our red lines that no president seems to abide by, but the Israelis and the Iranians, they all have their red lines. And there's another factor. The regime, the mullahs in Tehran, are an unpopular regime. And so they are looking at, probably the people that are rooting hardest for Israel tonight around the world are a number of political discontented people in Iran itself.
That's very true. That's a great point.
And so, when you look at this, it's not an easy calculation. It's not as simple as Israel strikes, Iran's going to strike back. What I am suggesting is that there has to be a great deal of thought in Tehran in terms of how they're going to strike back. And we have no insight, to my knowledge, of that decision-making process that'll go on with the Ayatollah and his military command leaders, Quds Force, et cetera, et cetera. Nor do we know how damaged they were, the chain of command tonight, if the Israelis took out a number of people in the military hierarchy, what kind of effect that's going to have on decision-making as well.
Cannot agree more. I do have a question for you. I see this breaking story on Breitbart. They just posted it about the judge. It was a Clinton judge that gives the National Guard back in charge of Newsom. Do you think Trump appeals that? But my bigger question is this, and this gets complicated because we talked about this just Tuesday night. All right,
depending on what level that judge was, it's going to be appealed and go up. I don't think that the National Guard returns to Newsom's control tomorrow.
Okay.
I think there's going to be an appeal period, and that ruling is certainly going to be looked at by upper courts, and we'll see what happens.
My question is this, though: should these liberal judges side with Newsom again, does that open the door then to the Marines taking the place of the Guard, and that begins to open up the can of worms we talked about Tuesday night, that now you're going to have military roaming the streets of L.A.? Do you see that happening if this National Guard situation don't get put back in the hands of the federal government?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay.
As we talked about, the military is loath to act against it. The U.S. military, other militaries aren't, but the U.S. military is actually, I am absolutely loath to act against its own people, and I'm sure that message has been served up by the high command to Trump as well. He does not have a tool that he can absolutely control in that regard. This is my opinion. You only use that as a backstop measure and as a last measure. You don't use them as sort of shock troops to put down demonstrations, while the National Guard sort of sits on the sidelines.
Totally agree, buddy. What was your thoughts today on these hearings, these sanctuary state governors and Hochul, Waltz, and Pfizer from Illinois? They sort of got beat down. And along those lines, what was your take on the Padilla situation? Him getting basically hauled out by the FBI, and he's crying like a baby tonight, claiming that he didn't rush Kristi Noem. I would disagree with that. He very much rushed her, and I think that the FBI acted accordingly. And I think all he would have had to done was just ask her to meet him at any time, and that could have been avoided. But James, these Democrats, they just don't seem to care about the rule of law in any state, form, or fashion, including their own self, do they?
No, it's only viewed through a prism that serves their own political means and interests. The whole idea that there's a rule of law to which they are also subject, they just don't seem to get that message. The hatred for Trump just overrides everything on one side of the aisle these days, and that stuff has got to stop. And so I applaud, all of these people that are acting completely without any sort of respect or decorum or anything else. My view: throw their sorry heinies in jail.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you. I totally am with you there. What's your thoughts tonight? Scale of 1 to 10. Does this thing in Iran get handled by Israel? Does America get drawn into this, or do you think that Israel takes care of business and in a few days, it's all said and done?
Well, I think it's going to be a several-day process, and I do know Israel has a limited number of these bunker buster types of bombs. One of them they used to take out the leader of Hezbollah and the Hezbollah high command. And so I'm not sure they have enough to go through some of these deeply buried mountain protected facilities that Iran has now in eastern Iran. So, and there are 2 or 3 of them. And I think they have good intelligence on where they are. I'm not sure without United States assistance that they have the technical ability to take them out. I may be wrong about that. They may have figured out a way to one bomb on another penetrating and getting deep enough to take them out. And I don't think they have the human assets to take them out. And so, what Israel is going to be able to do is slow down the production process, do what they can to eliminate the Iranian, especially the Quds Force, chain of command. And we're going to see that unfold over several days. But will they absolutely be able to eliminate every vestige of the nuclear threats in Iran just purely by strikes from the air with the capabilities they have, which are significant? But I don't think they'll be able to do it. That's just my opinion.
Let me ask you this, and we'll keep you another 10 minutes or so, 15. I thank you for coming on tonight. Where is Trump is in a very precarious. You talked about it Tuesday night. You talked about it yesterday. The fine line that he's walking right now. In all of this, is the Democrat narrative that he's an authoritarian dictator going to stick with people, or do you think that a majority of the people? He's got 59% approval rating right now on his handling of these illegals. 57% of the country believe that all illegals should be deported. That's a big number, James. That's not just the split of the country. That means that you're getting some independents in that vote. I would even dare say you're getting some Democrats because it's basically a 40-40-20 country right now. You got 40% left, 40% right, and you got that 20% fringe group that is probably both extreme right and extreme left, but 80% of the country's in the middle. To get 59% nowadays, you can't get 6 out of 10 people to agree the sky is blue. But it's amazing that they're agreeing with this. But do you think that there is any danger of him being seen? And it's not fair that because I understand what he's doing. I think most conservatives understand that what he's doing is trying to protect the rule of law in this country. But what kind of fine line is he walking with the public tonight? Because the Dems are not going to let up on this narrative he's telling.
Well, we need to pray for Donald Trump. And as I have said repeatedly on this program, could you imagine the situation with all of these things going on if the Democratic candidate had won the presidential election? It would just so that setting that aside. Donald Trump is walking a tightrope not only with the domestic situation, and you mentioned the popularity polls, but if you look at like the Drudge Report or some other of the mainstream media outlets, they will say his popularity rating is like at 37 or 38%. And so it's just a reflection of the divide that's in this country. Even the pollsters can't agree on things, and even the pollsters reflect a political bias, as much as they say that they don't. So he's walking that fine line in all of these domestic decisions he's making, and in the meantime, he's trying to get through Congress a bill that nobody seems to be completely enthusiastic about, but and then now with this situation in Iran, with Putin absolutely refusing to agree to any sort of winding down the road in the Ukraine, and in China, they are conducting, and the defense secretary in Singapore there's a big security conference held every year in Singapore, tried to warn everybody there that the Chinese are just one step away from taking action against Taiwan.
Yeah.
And there are all sorts of things going on in China underneath the surface that's not getting reported anywhere. And you have just, a situation where, I am praying he has the energy of an Energizer bunny anyhow, but man, all of these decisions, and each one of them are weighty, difficult decisions to make, and they're not only in this country but also abroad, and it has to test the mettle of the man, and so my prayers for Donald Trump. He's in a difficult situation. All of these decisions, as I said to you the last time, would challenge Solomon himself.
It would challenge Solomon himself. Well, I'm with you there, and I think that we need to pray for his safety tonight too, because look, these Iranians have been out there. This mullah yesterday was calling for people to assassinate both him and Vance, and I know people see those things, and our first reaction was that's just a crazy, Muslim running his mouth. But Jeemes, these people know how to energize their proxies. They know how to incite violence. If they know anything, if the Muslim world knows anything, they know how to incite violence, and they know how to trigger people to do crazy stuff. And it's a very dangerous time that we're living in, buddy. I'm going to give you five or 10 minutes. I want you to wrap us up. Anything else you feel like we need to know about this thing tonight? I think you're right. I don't think this is going to be a one-day event. I think we're looking at a multiple-day event. Are you? What's your thoughts about this No King movement that's across the country? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's a an underground, long time in planning, very well financed by Soros and the types, movement that is indicative of the frustration of the Democrats to come up with very real plans to oppose Donald Trump, and so you're going to have the leftists resort to this sort of stuff. That's my view of it, and will it have staying power? I don't know. I doubt it. I think we'll see a wave of it, and then it's just going to sort of, as they run out of money to pay people to turn out in the streets, it'll sort of fade away. But it'll cause an amount of damage in the meantime. We have in this country people. It's the nature of our culture and the all or nothing politics that now just entangle and ensnare our national polity. We are just so divided, and all of these things just represent that division. And as I mentioned the last time, the key is for people to not act out of fear, but for the Christians in this country to exercise the spiritual authority they have over these situations, and we need a movement, a national movement of prayer that doesn't offer up Casper milquetoast prayers, or politically correct prayers, but that people seek the face of God and they pray, according to the authority that they have to speak to all of these situations, and that is my hope for what is going to happen. Otherwise, we are going to be swallowed up by lawlessness.
Yeah. What would you think would trigger, one question I see in the chat tonight, what would you think would trigger the U.S. to get involved in this? What is one thing that could happen that would draw us into this war? It's a great question. I'll let you go home after this.
Oh, to me, it's very clear. From what I've been hearing several people say tonight, if Iran or its proxies strike U.S. bases and there's significant loss of personnel in those strikes that we can absolutely trace back to Iran and its proxies, then I think Trump has no choice, and we go in a major way and put the hammer down.
I'm sort of glad you said what you said about Wyckoff. I've been a little disappointed in him. I think Huckabee has done a decent job as ambassador over there, but Wyckoff, he just strikes me as a politician. And you can't be a politician with liars. You can't deal with the devil and be a politician. They're going to eat you alive, and I think that's what's happened. And even tonight, Trump is saying that he wants this to be solved diplomatically. Jeemes, I don't think it can be. I just don't. Maybe I'm naive, and maybe I should have more faith about a diplomatic solution. But I will tell you, if we were dealing with normal people and people without a death wish, I would say that's possible. But I look at the same thing with Russia and Ukraine. It's evident these two nations want to kill each other. You got 1 million people dead, and there's no end in sight to the bloodshed over there. And I think Iran don't care. If Iran put 1 million people's blood on the carpet of the Middle East, it wouldn't faze them a bit. And that's who you're dealing with. And I think that we better come to grips with that. And we better come to grips with it soon.
Yeah. No, you have a spiritual hatred there, and you have people of the world that think if you present both sides with a reasonable deal, and you somehow get them together in a room, that they're going to make a reasonable decision. The problem is, when you get some of these people in a room, it only reinforces how much they hate each other, and they're not going to come to a reasonable deal, especially one that looks good to a president that constantly emphasizes he is the negotiator in chief. These people are not swayed by that. We have lots of people in this country, and I think he's a good negotiator, a real estate success story, and this, that, and the other. But that does not carry weight among the Shia, diehard Shia in Tehran, and those are the people he is trying to urge to have some sort of semblance of common sense. No, they're guided purely by thousands of years of hatred and their own religious extremism. So it's a tall task. He took it on. He knew what the risks were, and now it looks like it's breaking down. And at some point, in my opinion, he's going to have to decide who is our true ally in the region, and at some point in the future, help him out. That's what I think is going to happen.
Couldn't said it better, buddy. Listen, you're always our go-to guy in these moments, and you and Brad are invaluable. Brad's sort of down right now physically, so can't get him on for at least a while. He's not doing well, but I do want you to know that we're grateful for your insight, and you and Leslie both tonight have been great. I'm going to let you go. We'll keep you updated. Hang on to that phone. We may be calling you tomorrow if this thing gets even more intense, and don't go far. And I tell you what we'll do. We'll do a live cast from the Reds game when we get together, and we'll just broadcast from the Reds game. How about that? And do a one-on-one live cast with us eating a hot dog and eating some popcorn and drinking a Coke together. How about that?
That sounds good. I would much rather describe how a hot dog tastes at the Reds ballpark than talk about the mullahs in Tehran.
Totally agree, man. And we got to get Millwee in on this. We got to get Millwee in on this. She's an Astros fan. You're a Reds fan. I'm a Braves fan. So if we ever have a scenario where those three teams play each other at the same weekend, we'll do that. Much love, buddy. I appreciate you. Be safe up there, man. And we'll talk to you soon. And as I said, hang loose because we may be calling you very soon tomorrow again or over the weekend or the first of the week. And happy Father's Day, by the way. God bless you, friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you very much. God bless.
God bless you too, Jeemes. Jeemes Akers, everybody, put some fire in that house. I had hoped we threw a fishing line out to Eric Karen tonight. He's back from Italy, and hadn't heard back if he's going to come on here. I'm going to stick around for another 40 minutes. I do want to play a couple of videos for you tonight. On this extended McFiles. If you've just joined us tonight, folks, we've got breaking news, and I want to play a video or two. This is the IDF announcement tonight, and I want to say it's in his, I think he's speaking in Israeli, but he may be speaking in English. This is the IDF just hours ago announcing that what Israel was doing.
For years, the Iranian regime has called for the destruction of the state of Israel, planning and advancing concrete military plans to do so. Over the past few months, intelligence has shown that Iran is closer than ever to obtaining a nuclear weapon. This morning, the IDF began preemptive and precise strikes targeting the Iranian nuclear program in order to prevent the Iranian regime's ability to build a nuclear bomb in the immediate time frame. We have no choice. We are operating against an imminent and existential threat. We cannot allow the Iranian regime to obtain a nuclear weapon that would be a danger to Israel and the entire world. This operation is for our right to exist here, for our future and for our children's future. The State of Israel has the right and the obligation to operate in order to protect its people and will continue to do so. The IDF conducted significant preparations for this operation. We are well prepared both in defense and offense to defend ourselves. The IDF will continue to defend the State of Israel.
And that is the head of the IDF tonight, and that was a interview earlier tonight. I want to start a poll tonight. I could ask several things, but basically a question. I'm just going to say, do you think Israel was justified in striking Iran tonight? And I'll let you answer that question in the chat in YouTube, and we'll put that question up in Facebook as well tonight. We'll see what we come up with. I'm sure it's going to be a majority tonight, but it's just interesting. I think one set of images would be plenty enough there in Facebook tonight. Listen, if you got a question, go ahead and put it in. This is some video out of Tehran tonight. This is something of, it's just maybe a minute or two long. This was on Nia Borg's X account tonight. Roll the tape. There's an apartment complex that was hit. That was a apartment complex that was hit in Tehran. It was a short clip there. I've been scouring X to see if there's any other video out there. What's going on in Iran tonight? A lot of it has to do with today's brouhaha with Padilla and so forth. This is panic tonight. They're telling them to go back, people to go back to their homes. I'm posting this on our X account. I do encourage you to follow us at the McFiles 55 on X. And this is Dr. Eli David tonight. He's basically saying that Iranians are given a once-in-a-lifetime chance to regain their country. This was 15 minutes ago. And he says they better take advantage of it. And I totally agree with that. This is their moment to rise, and this regime is on their heels tonight. This could be a turning point for both good or bad for Iran. And I just want to make it clear, folks, I'm not trying to put any kind of fear or undue fear on anybody. I think common sense would tell us all. Because with the events that are going on in our country tonight, with the events going on in LA, Philadelphia is being rocked tonight by these protests. Chicago again tonight. Salt Lake City, of all the places out there, Salt Lake City is being rocked. Seattle, of course, LA. And I think that with this No More Kings movement on Friday by this indivisible group, look, common sense would tell you just to be alert. We showed you the map, and here is the news story tonight out of Breitbart. You can see the fires. That is the video right there. That is from Tehran. That's update from the Times of Israel. And the statement from Emmanuel Fabian was the IDF confirms it has launched an aerial campaign against Iran's nuclear program. Dozens of targets of across Iran related to the nuclear program and other military facilities are being struck by the Israeli Air Force tonight. The operation is dubbed Strength of a Line. Here is some video from that. This is from Soleimani Ahmed. This is Israel's attacks right there. You can see it. I'll play that back again. That's live video just at 8:10 p.m. tonight, just about an hour and a half ago. And that is going on. Here's some more video tonight. Let me see if that will play again. Let me see if that takes you to the X link. We saw some of this. This is, see if this will play. It's not going to play on here. Let me download it real quick. This is hang on just a second. Let me see if I can get that video. It's the same video, actually. This guy's got the same video. I was thinking we had more newer angles of that, but we don't. But this is taking place in real time tonight. The consensus, from what I'm hearing, this is Emily Schrader, at least 15 explosions being heard in Tehran as Israel begins this strike. You can see the fire there. And this is the strike right here on Jeemes. This is one of the nuclear facilities there. And you can see the strike there. And that is from Israel tonight. That's the apartment complex. That video I just showed you a few seconds. This is the homes of 2 top Islamic regime political and military officials. No targets are civilians. And that's important to know because I'm sure Israel will be accused of that before this is over with. And very, very intense stuff coming out of Tehran tonight. And again, this is what we know as of right now. Iranians are actually in the streets tonight. The government is trying to crack down on that. They're scared, folks. Their regime is crumbling. And I think that with this happening tonight, again, I think Dr. David's statement is the fact that this is Iran's time, one way or the other. They're at a crossroads. This is the lovely Padilla today, this California senator that was pushed out of a press briefing. He was trying to show his backside today. And it didn't go too well for him.
Thank you to every single person that has been able to do this. Also, I want to talk specifically to the rioters and to the politicians in Los Angeles.
The fact of the matter is, a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
I also want to talk about specifically how many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty.
Yep, they were doxxed for doing their duty, and this is another view of this. Watch this. Hang on just a second. Let me download this video. I thought I had it downloaded already. This is another video of this from the backside of that shows him getting basically manhandled by the FBI. And it sure does look like he was lunging after her to me. I know that he's claiming out there tonight that he wasn't, and crying like a baby on television tonight. Again, I'm just an old South Georgia boy, and I would say that it sure does look like he was doing this. He was lunging. Let me come back over to my live screen. I'll let you make this call yourself. But this is him. This is the other angle of that from behind the room with her today.
Senator Alex Padilla, I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is, a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your. Hands off.
They put their hands off of him, all right. They put him on the ground right here. They literally put him on the ground. I think I got a video of that already, too. Where is that video at? Here it is right here. This is another video. This is actually him going to the ground.
Senator Alex Padilla, I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is, a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your hands off.
How many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing
this is how you handle lawless people. The video plays on it. There's another video I saw. They had his hands on the ground, and folks, that was just publicity stunt. He could have said anything to her at any other time other than that press conference. That's the Dems for you. That's the Dems for you tonight. And good for the FBI, good for the people there that was handling the protection of Noam today to do that. Anyway, Anyway. All righty. Dan, your questions. Iran has been days away from having a nuke for about 20 years. What is true? Well, Dan, I don't disagree that I've heard the same thing, but I don't know what you're insinuating. I think that Israel saw something in tonight that they needed to move. I'm with Israel. I support Israel's event. I think that the United States has been trying. I put it like this, Dan. Since day one, President Trump has been negotiating with the mullahs to get them to stop pursuing a nuclear weapon. We gave them $150 billion with a B in cash back in 2015 to stop their pursuit. They didn't stop it. If the Obama administration would have done their job and starved this regime, when Trump came into office in 2016, he put so many sanctions on this thing, they couldn't buy a McDonald's hamburger. But the second that Joe B comes into office, he lifts the sanctions, and then terrorism spreads on the Middle East again, thanks to the Iranians, because they use that $150 billion to spread their message of hate and their message of whatever to destroy Israel. They want Israel destroyed. So while I'm not going to disagree with you fully that we have been hearing, nobody said they were days away. Even in 2015, they were saying they were years away. But I will tell you this, I was seeing reports this past year that time clock had sped up rapidly because they've not been checked. This agency that James Akers mentioned tonight, for the first time since 2005, they've issued a report on the Iranian situation. So 20 years later, all of a sudden they come out and say that Iran's not compliant. These UN agencies are as feckless as can be. I support the actions of the Israeli government tonight to do what they've done. And they've got a right to defend themselves. And look, the rhetoric itself is a threat. You don't get on a podium and tell the world, death to America, death to America, death to America, death to Israel, without eventually the nation you're saying death to taking your threat seriously. So I'll just leave it at that. Anyway, all right, any other questions tonight? I'm going to take your questions for a few minutes, and then we're going to wrap this up. I don't think Eric's going to be on tonight. Pat says, if they had nothing to hide, they would have let the international inspectors in. Pat, perfectly said. Pat and Deb, exactly. That's what I just said. If they had nothing to hide, there would be transparency. There would be open inspections. And if the UN was a fair broker, we would get the truth. That's the problem. I don't know if they would even tell us the truth if they were finding the truth. But any nation would be welcome to inspect. These people cannot be trusted. I want to say this again tonight because I'm almost sensing that it's going to be an onslaught of Israel tomorrow. It's already taking place out there on X tonight a little bit, that Israel's trying to start World War III. No, World War III was trying to be started a long time ago, folks. And whether we want to admit it tonight, folks, to some degree we're already in World War III. We've just not had bombs hitting different cities. But this war of terror and these Islamic attacks and these little skirmishes and Israel fighting a war. Ruth Goodenheim, I wish I had time to play that video tonight, that interview. I'm so close to doing it, so tempted to do it. She's fighting a war on 7 fronts. And her size of her country, if you look at the land size and the square footage of Israel, the square miles that Israel encompasses, not even as big as New Jersey. Not even as big as New Jersey. 7 fronts of war that she's fighting tonight. So do I support what she did tonight? You doggone right I do. And I don't blink an eye saying it. And I think that it was necessary. It was time. She might as well get this out of her system, get it done, because it was not going to go away. The threat was not going to go away. And to the gentleman's statement about haven't we heard Iran's close to a bomb for 20 years? Well, I tell you what, they're not going to be a days away now. That's all that matters. Because I think when Israel's done, it's not going to be days anymore. They will put this nuclear program way back on its heels. But the bigger issue tonight are the Iranian people. They got a chance to take their country. They got a chance to take down this regime of terror and start afresh. And President Trump is going to said, we will help the Iranians get back on their feet. If they'll play fair and they'll do the right thing, America will be there to help them. America will help. And folks, can I tell you, Israel will too. Israel may not trust Iran. They may not like Iran. But Israel does not want to fight a war. They got enough wars. They got enough issues that they're dealing with right now. This is not something Israel's doing because she wants to do it, as some morons will say. Israel don't need this tonight. They're still reeling from October the 7th. They certainly don't need any of this. So before your anti-Semitic buddies that smoke cigars and have the brains of kindergartners tell you that this is all evil Jews are starting wars again, remember that tonight. Remember that tonight. And I have no problem saying that. I'll amen myself. Let's see here. Dan, you say I agree, but feel the warmongers could have pushed Bibi to foil Trump's diplomacy. I disagree with that. Bibi don't win in this. Bibi does not win in this. And I disagree. I think that he waited. By every report I'm hearing, Bibi has shown great patience. Israel could have done this a month ago. And him and Trump had some words, and they spoke pretty bluntly, from what I understand, on the phone to each other. And President Trump told Bibi, give me a month, give me some time. I'm going to try to get them to the table. And even Trump today said that his efforts were failing. Speaking of Trump's and Wyckoff's, he said the Iranians are not dealing fairly, and they're not dealing right. That don't sound like some warmongers trying to push Bibi to blunt Trump's diplomacy. Trump's diplomacy wasn't working. Trump tonight is out there saying, and Rubio, that we're still looking for a diplomatic solution. I don't think you find one in this. I may be wrong. Chris has been wrong before, and if I'm wrong, Chris will always be a man and come back on here and tell you I was wrong. But I disagree that this was the warmongers pushing Bibi to do it. Nobody wins in this, Dan. Nobody wins in this. Nobody wins in this. Good to see you on Mark Kaysen tonight. Jane, we've talked about that all night, about the open border situation. We've been talking about that since the start of the show. Iran having people here because of our open borders is not really a news flash. You just, what do I think about them being active here after the leader's sentiments? I think it's a concern, but that's what I'm saying tonight. I think that we need to have a heightened sense of alertness about us as Americans, and I don't think we need to believe that this is going to be this is just a regional issue. And I would be very concerned about our boys. If you've got military family and you've got family overseas tonight, our prayers are for their safety, because I think the bases in the Middle East, and Corey mentioned the Baghdad, Iraq embassy being evacuated earlier today. That embassy was already under sort of a sketch amount of Americans there, and what's left, they've left. I think America knew today. I think Trump knew today that this was coming. I don't think this caught anybody off guard. They're very aware, and I'm sure that Bibi gave a heads up, because the World Israel News this morning, when I first got up, because we do a radio show at 2, and I look over the headlines for the day, and one of the lead stories in the World Israeli News outlet said that Israel was simply waiting on a green light from the White House. I think they got that green light tonight. That's just my opinion, and I have not read anything out there except for the QAnites and the Dummanites and the anti-Semites that there's a conspiracy going on that Israel, is whatever. We should get used to that by now. Reasonably thinking people will understand that there's a cost to what Israel had to do tonight. They risked the cost for their safety. And there is no nation on this earth that would not do the same if pushed to that event. And any leader that would not stand up and protect his own people is not a leader. He's a hireling. He's a hireling. So I salute Bibi Netanyahu for protecting his people tonight. And I think that to err on the side of caution in this situation is more than warranted. Is more than warranted. And as the old saying goes, this Southerner will amen himself. This Southerner will amen himself. We've lost a little bit of our audience tonight, and that's all right. We were up to 430 people at one time tonight. We appreciate all you that have been with us tonight on X, on Rumble, and Facebook, and also on YouTube tonight. Good audience. Man, what an audience. Bear agrees with me 100%. I agree with myself too, Bear. I will agree with myself too. Let's see here. We've got a 91 to 9% poll. We've had about 67 votes. And 91 to 9 so far believe that Israel was justified in hitting Iran. I've been joking at times with folks, telling them that, we try to take a day or two off sometimes, but the world changes so quickly, we never know from one day to the next what's going to happen. Joan says, please play it. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let me download it, Joan. I think I am going to play that video tonight, folks. I was hoping Eric could come on, but he can't come on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to, this was a 30-minute interview today. It's not long. This will take us to 11:15 tonight. And this is, I'm going to go over to my screen here on the Zoom page right here. There I am. I'm going to get myself, it's not Lori Mills tonight, but this is Ruth Goodenheim. And I'm going to let Ruth, this was her today earlier. We did this about noontime in my time. This was 7 o'clock, 7:30 Israel time earlier tonight. But I'm going to come over here and cut this video feed off, and then I'm going to bring this interview in. Just 30 minutes. And this is Ruth Goodenheim earlier today from Israel. And this was just hours before this happened tonight with Iran. We were talking about the possibility of this today. I hope you enjoy this. It's going to be good stuff. We'll be right back after this with an extended McFiles Thursday night, folks. We're watching a live show. We are covering breaking news from Tehran tonight. Israel has attacked Iran and her nuclear facilities. Here's Ruth Guggenheim. And good evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with a very, 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 very special McFiles pre-recorded interview. We are always on. We hadn't had this dear lady on for a while, and it's not been her fault. Just scheduling and time and all of this. But Ruth Goodenheim's back with us, and Muna Israel. We're so grateful to have her. And I tell you what, it is good to see you, friend. I know lots going on in Israel, just like lots going on here in America. We were somewhat joking that, one thing about it, neither Israel nor America is boring right now. There is nothing boring about our countries, what's going on. And it is, suffice it to say, it's wild time in the Wild West is all I got to add to that. But listen, we're good to have you tonight. Grateful to have you on the McFiles. Welcome back, and so grateful to see you.
Thank you, Chris. It's wonderful to be back. It's been months and months, and I miss you, and I miss your followers. And thanks for having me back on. Let's see where we can go together tonight.
We're going to have you back on regular. I know you won't be available to us for a month or so, but we're going to get you back on regular. I'd like to get you on every month if I could. But I do want to talk to you, main thing right now tonight, this pressing situation with Iran is continuing to unravel. I think, look, I've got all faith in President Trump and his skills to do what he can do to try to keep Iran from a bomb. But I think that I've seen even the last couple of days here, he has acknowledged that the Iranians are not fair players. And I've been, my greatest concern for him is that he would enter into some kind of agreement just for the sake of an agreement instead of what's best for Israel. And I think that our at least our news stories, our news sources here are saying that him and Bibi had a rather spirited conversation, as we say down here in the South. And Bibi is ready to do what he has to do, but he's just been waiting on the green light. He's trying his best to appease Trump and appease the Americans. But Ruth, you know, you all have got to protect yourself. And I've been saying this to my audience that I understand both sides. I know that we don't need to get involved and kick a hornet's nest, but you already got a hornet's nest. You got a nation that is vowed for your destruction. That sounds like a hornet's nest to me. And there's no easy way out of this. And if they get that bomb, it's game over. And I'm just curious how you feel about that and how the people of Israel are handling that right now.
First of all, Chris, this has been going on for years and years. It's very interesting. It sounds almost like Trump, who came in much stronger right away, that they would stand with us in partnership against Iran, because it's a known fact that they have already, you know, they have enough uranium. They actually, I don't think it's a matter, you know, we've been hearing for years, it's a matter of days. It's a matter of days till they're, you know, able to really launch missiles. We live under that threat literally every single day. And then when Trump came in, he talked tough, and then he seemed to backpedal a bit. And now I think he's realizing what Israel unfortunately has realized through our history is talk is cheap. Everybody wants peace. Nobody wants to be confronted with war, whether it's our side or their side. Certainly, Israel has no desire to hurt innocent people or go to war. We're at war all the time. Our history evolves around war. We have not been at peace for 76 years since the modern day has been the modern day of Israel. So it's not like we're talking cheaply when we talk that Iran has to be dealt with. And Netanyahu has stood in front of the UN for years and years. He had charts. They had found a lot of the documents. If you recall, years ago, they did some kind of covert mission and went into Iran and literally brought out boxes and boxes proving that they were literally doing this. They were doing this for bombs. They were doing this. They hate Israel. They hate the West. We're just the frontline people. You know, ultimately, America's also in the way, shall we say. So, I think I was personally, and I think many Israelis were disappointed that Trump seemed to really kind of backtrack a little, but now he seems to once again be saying, you know what, they don't really want any deal. They don't want a deal. And ultimately we all have to defend what's right.
Oh, absolutely.
And what's God's plan and take this evil out, because this is a known evil that is supporting the Iran regime. People have to remember, it's not just about us and Israel and the Western society, but Iran is the sponsor of any international global terrorism. People must remember that. The things you're even seeing in the States, lots of it comes funding through the Iran channels, through their bankers, shall we say. This is a huge, it's not even the deep, dark internet. This is out there. You just have to follow and connect the dots. And so, look, if Israel's got to stand up and do what's right for our people and for the West and for the side of God, shall we say, then we need to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I feel like I feel the same thing you do. I think that there was people over here maybe talking into Trump's head and saying, let's try the diplomatic route. And, you said it beautifully at the beginning. We don't want war. But Ruth, look, you're already in war. And I think that if Iran had a bomb right now, it would use it. And it would use it first on Israel. They would turn and blackmail the West, blackmail the world, threatening nukes against you all. And look, it's best not to let them have one to begin with than to try to get one and then start negotiating with a bunch of terrorists. And I think that they've never been a fair player. Look, we have seen this story.
You can't trust them. Plus, Chris, I do want to bring out to you and to your listeners living here in Israel and Jerusalem. I mean, for the last few days, we're all getting true warnings. I mean, first of all, we all live every single day with bombs, okay, and threats and missiles. And I can't tell you how many times I have to go into the safe room, okay, almost once a day at least here in Jerusalem. And there's other cities much worse. But we are getting additional home front command messaging in terms of being prepared for anything at this point with Iran and with Israel. So things are escalating. It's scary, to be honest, here to think that, wow, are we going from one level of war that we've been in, with Hamas and everything, and since October 7th, 2023, but are we entering a whole new world, so to speak, of war? It's a whole different escalation.
I read an article, and I can't remember where it was from, but it was a great article about the 7 fronts that you all are facing of war. And Ruth, there's no country in this universe right now that can say that they're having to fight a war on 7 fronts like Israel is.
And remember, we're only the size of New Jersey.
And the only size, you're only the size of New Jersey. Exactly right. And it leads me into my next question, and we'll keep abreast of Iran, and I'm sure we'll be calling on some folks your way if this thing goes south. I did hear a report this morning. I don't know if there's any truth to it, that the hospitals have said that they are preparing for an emergency. So I don't know if there's things that are being leaked, that something is up, that we could be talking a strike in a few days.
The hospitals in Israel.
Yeah.
First of all, they're always on now high alert. I think there's never a time we're not on high alert. What I do believe, what happens is there is a whole underground hospital system in Israel. So in other words, for instance, God willing, you'll come to Israel once, you'll see the Hadassah Hospital, which is one of the largest. There's 2 Hadassah hospitals, but the biggest one is in a community called Ein Kerem. And it's huge. And they have doctors' hospitals there. They have schools and everything. So nursing schools. But underneath, there's prepared like there's surgical wings built in under the ground. They have been doing that since the get-go, since we always know that there will come a time, and there already has been times when hospitals were under attack, and the patients, especially the most critical patients, some people can be sent home, and they do that. They try to get you home as soon as possible, so that if, God forbid, there really is something, you're in a safer place. But patients, and that there is a whole surgical wing, there's an ICU, there's emergency facilities underground in this country.
Yeah. Well, I know that it goes without saying we're praying for the safety of all the citizens. And I do want to ask you something that's been sort of developing too. And Huckabee was out there yesterday, and it just blew me away what he said. He was asked about the Palestinian state issue. And I read an article today in World Israel News that Israel as good as said, if there is any kind of movement to declare a Palestinian state, they are going to annex Judea and Samaria. They are not going to allow this to happen. And Huckabee said, I think, something out loud that I think most Americans over here have always felt, I felt it, that the Arab world, Ruth, has got the room to put every single Palestinian in Israel that wants to live in the Arab-controlled world and have an Arab state. They got plenty of land that they can give. You mentioned it a while ago. You all ain't even the size of New Jersey. You don't have any room hardly for your own citizens, let alone to encompass another state. And they're trying to cut the land up more and more and more. The Gaza Strip, the West Bank now. And I don't think that in my lifetime I don't think we're ever gonna see that. I hope that the West stands firm against this. But I know there are forces that are trying to make it happen. But look at the way Huckabee said yesterday, let the Arabs deal with it. They've got the land sources, they've got the resources, Israel don't. And if the Palestinians are serious about a state, which they're not, they just want a hub for terror.
They just want to get rid of us.
They want to get rid of you. That's the bottom line. But let the Arab world take it. And then the world's going to find out, if that happens, the true color of the Palestinians, because they're going to foment violence and foment unrest in those Arab countries. And the Arabs damn well know it. They know it. And that's why they don't.
Well, the Arabs don't want the Palestinians. It's very interesting. They could have taken them and given them anything they wanted, or supported the Gaza community, shall we say, and not let Hamas rule it like they did and destroy it like they did. I mean, but what's always been amazing to myself and almost everybody who lives here, Jews especially, is why don't the Arabs help their own people? Why aren't they just taking them? They're not going to be those less than 2 million Arabs that live in that particular region of Gaza. they could easily, if they wanted to have good lives, they wanted to have some freedom, maybe democracy. There are certain parts of the Arab region, Arabia, that they could go to, and they could have new lives. They wouldn't be the first people that had to do that, but that's not their goal. Their goal is not to give their people dignity and freedom and the integrity of being, an independent nation. That's not what they're all about. Hamas is controlling them like crazy. And I think a lot of their own people have bought into the propaganda over time too, because we know after October 7th, really like 90% of the Ghazian people supported Hamas. They've done surveys. It's not like you're saying like, oh, 20, 30% of the people, of the population supported Hamas and went along with the kidnappings and all the other things. No, 90% said that Hamas did the right thing and they should do it again. Well, that's very telling.
It is very telling, and that's the story that's never told in the media. And I'm glad you brought that up, because the Gazan citizens do not have, let me change that. They have just as much blood on their hands as Hamas does, in my opinion. I think the Gaza Strip was the biggest failure of the government of Israel back in 2004. You should have never, ever annexed that strip to the Palestinians. I know
the Oslo Accords were the worst thing.
It was absolutely the worst thing that could have ever happened. I am curious. I know that it seems that there is, Israel continues the offensive there. Of course, we're still having the protest here, the anti-Semitic rampage here on our campuses. And it's not just in the campuses now. We've had some demonstrations in the streets. Some of these riots that are going on, I know there's a lot of it about ICE and getting the illegals out and so forth, but I've seen a little element of anti-Semitism erupt in some of these. Because some of these flags that I'm seeing on television are Gazan flags. These are Hamas.
Exactly. And people aren't even know what is Israel's situation and the Palestinian situation have anything to do with the ICE violence that's going on right now, for instance, in LA and everything. But people are trying, those people, especially who are misinformed or choose to be misinformed or follow the media without any knowledge of what they're really thinking about, they're choosing to be manipulated and to be pawns in a bigger picture here. Because, whether you agree with the deportation, but it's interesting because that was one of the big things Trump, the platform was to get rid of illegal aliens, but now they're all corrupt. A lot of people are fighting it. Obviously, they're from a different, mostly Democratic, I would assume, or very, very far left.
Oh, yeah.
But it doesn't make sense. What in the world are we doing in the middle of those discussions?
Right. And that's a great question. And my question to you is, how are the people of Israel right now? I know that Bibi, the government, I know there was a little brush up with the government and there was a lot of votes, and it seems that's failed. But has he kept the support of the people for the most part through this intact, what he's doing?
Netanyahu?
Netanyahu, yes.
I think people feel on some level he should step down. I mean, the problem is you really can't change a government in the middle of a war. We need to end this war, to be perfectly honest. Is the war being politicized also? Is he keeping it going? Who knows? I mean, the reality is if the bottom line is, if the hostages, the remaining hostages, who we know the majority are deceased, but if they would just be released, this war could end tomorrow. But for whatever reason, people don't realize we're not the ones holding them prisoners. Hamas is still keeping them prisoners. They want the war to end. Just end it. Send the people back. We'll stop blowing up, the Gaza Strip and that. But they don't seem to want to end it. So I think Netanyahu has always been in a really hard place. The dynamics needed to be right in the beginning, but it couldn't be because Biden held Israel's wrists, whatever you want to say.
Absolutely.
But had we gone in there with force right in the beginning, it would have been over within 2 to 3 days, but we weren't able to do that. So now it's just dragged on and on and on. The people we all want it to end. Netanyahu has lost a lot in the polls, to be honest. But yes, he was able to keep his coalition alive today. That was interesting, but that is an internal political thing, not necessarily the will of the people.
It's an interesting
It's two different
take on
things.
that. Yeah, I know it's an interesting take. That's why I value your opinion, because I was curious, and that makes a lot of sense. I do want to ask you. I know this don't shock you that there have been lies about the aid that is getting to the Gazan people. Look, and I do give Bibi some credit here. I know America's getting a lot of they're taking a lot of the credit for the aid finally getting to the people and not being hijacked by Hamas. But the bottom line to me is Israel is the only nation, and this speaks of the nation's character, that feeds its enemies. And the very people that are trying to kill it, the very land, area, mass that launched the worst terrorist attack in Israel really since the Holocaust, you all have tried to do the right thing to feed and be humanitarian to the people. And you're not getting a lot of credit for it. Y'all have been, it's been lies in our media about, Israel starving people to death. So the Americans come along and they start, sending this aid to these centers, and America's acting like the great savior. And I think that it's fair that we have helped, but I don't think we need to forget that Bibi has tried. I think Bibi has at least tried to do the right thing humanitarian wise. Is that a fair assessment of that?
I do believe so. I think Israel's very big in that. First of all, people forget that Israel's the only, to my knowledge, the only country that sends its soldiers into buildings and into places to say, we're going to be bombing in a day or something, leave. Like, we're giving you a chance to get out of here.
Right.
This doesn't normally happen in real war zones, shall we say. One of the things that's interesting, Chris, I don't know how much publicity you're seeing with the aid workers that from the new aid workers, were 5 of them were just killed by Hamas today, or I guess last night your time or whatever.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know if you're getting play on that, but people, we know it was, and originally they were trying to say it was Israel, but they came out. There have been enough documented things, and the aid workers are saying no, it wasn't Israel, it was Hamas. But they turned on us. They killed at least 5 people. I think there's maybe a little bit more now that's coming out. Like more people had actually been killed.
Yeah, and
like where's the war? Where's the world about this?
Nowhere.
And this isn't the first time it's happened. That's the whole thing. Hamas has literally kidnapped isn't the right word, stolen a lot of the aid over the last 18 months that's coming in from all different parts of the world. They just sell it, they steal it, and then they try to resell it to their people. The aid is not coming in to make profit, and yet people aren't even talking about this. The people who are supposed to be governing Hamas, the Gaza Strip, the Hamas people, are stealing from their own people.
They are.
And they want to just make it look like it's Israel and all that. It's not. Obviously, all you have to do is follow all the videos that are coming out in the news, the honest news that's saying, wow, yeah, no, they've turned on their own people. They have shot them time and time again. We have pictures from the last year of different groups trying to get food from aid, and they shoot at the women. They've shot at young boys trying to get food for to take back to their families. So there's a lot of evil going on there.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. And I did hear about the 5. In fact, I just saw the article before I came on. And the world is silent about that. You're not going to hear the media talk about that because it never does fit their narrative when Hamas is the one doing it.
It doesn't fit their narrative. That's the perfect
and that's true.
word.
We got about 5 minutes, and I just want to ask you this, 5-10 minutes. You mentioned the fear. Is there any sense of optimism at all that Israel, let's go back to the West Bank a minute. If let's just say that miracle of miracles, the Palestinians pulled out, which I'm not saying they're going to, I don't know what they're going to do. Ultimately, only the Lord knows where all this is headed. But is there any sense among the Israeli people that there's going to come a day when you all are going to take a deep breath and not have these eternal enemies from within, these wars on every front? Because it just seems like since October the 7th, Israel's had a history of war after war after war to survive ever since 1948. But it just seems like since October the 7th, Ruth, it seems that all hell has been released upon this nation from all sides. And I would say that this is probably the most dangerous time of history that I've ever seen Israel be in. I mean, as far as enemies, and it just seems to maintain itself. It keeps going. I know it's by the help of God, but what about are the people optimistic at all that this is going to end anytime soon?
Yeah, very, very much so. First of all, people here in Israel are constantly talking about the miracles that we're living through. We understand that this is a part of the bigger picture of God's reckoning, the apple of his eye, but also that that means we get a lot of, whatever is going to happen in the messianic age comes through Israel. That's the bottom line. Comes through our land and our people. You know what I'm saying? It's going to happen here. As the world is going through transformative changes, which we all in different ways know that this is a messianic time. We may have a slightly different belief system, but as Jews, we totally believe in Yemei HaMashiach, in the coming of our Messiah that will come, bring the peace, okay? And the enemies that do surround us will be reckoned with. They will see it. And one of the things that from our biblical narrative is that God is showing his arm. I mean, all the mirror on one hand, yes, we are scared at times. We're humans, we're normal. But on the other hand, we are faith-based people who believe in our Torah, in our Bible, in our scriptures. And we know that Hashem, that God is working miracles. Just seeing the missiles that go down at night, seeing these, we watch videos all the time, praying and they don't hit people. Chris, we're living through unbelievable miracles. The mere fact that so few Israelis have been hurt at all, and that we have these iron domes and we have these things, we take it for granted almost because we're living in the Star Wars generation. We're all raised watching Star Trek and Star Wars and all those things, but they weren't real when the Bible was created, and we're living it. You hear what I'm saying? So our prophecies are coming true, and one of the things that there's a meforsh, there's a saying, a teaching in Judaism that before Mashiach comes, before Messiah comes, it's like birth pangs. It's like a woman giving birth to her child. The last day or two, when it's a lot of pain, she's screaming, she's yelling. It's not easy. But at the end of the day, there will be a miraculous birth. There will be your child, something to celebrate. We believe and we say we are in the birth pains of the coming of Messiah.
It's beautiful. I believe you. I'll amen that. Just a final question. Scale of 1 to 10. How does Israel, do they still consider America their greatest ally right now? Has that waned at all, or do y'all still feel that we've got your back? I know more with Trump, more so.
Well, God willing, you help our. We need to go through this together, hand in hand. I think the majority of Israelis for sure still feel that America is on our side and the greatest ally we have. There's no question.
Okay, fair enough.
With that, we are meant to go through this together, and we do need America's support. There's no question.
Well, America needs to realize we need Israel's support too, Ruth, because look,
exactly.
these things work hand in hand. It's not just one-sided. And yes, Israel does need America because Israel's the size of New Jersey and America's not. But Israel, I think Americans need to realize how much we need Israel. And the anti-Semitism has not really waned at all. It's gotten worse. And it just seems like every one of these protests that we're seeing, I don't know what it is about this spirit that's enveloping the earth right now, but every opportunity the enemy has to instill this Jew hatred into people, it's like they take every opportunity they can to slur and to slander and to do what they're doing. And again, I've watched these riots, and I've just noticed the last couple of days more and more Hamas flags, more and more Palestinian flags. And again, we're being told this is about ICE and the terrorism and of ICE and them terrorizing families and all. But I think there's an underlying current of people that are financing this stuff, that it's the same people financing Hamas and financing a lot of things that are being done against Israel. And I think they all work hand in hand. Buddy, listen, I am so grateful for you. I look forward to seeing you again in person, and I want to wish you the best with what's ahead of you.
Okay,
and personally, and I don't want to talk about that publicly, but we just want you to know that we're praying for you. And when you get done and better, we're going to get you back in July. And I do want us to do this more regular. I've just had a little weird spell here for the few months we'd had you on.
Well, you should stay good too and everything.
Yeah, I had a little adventure myself, and no more popcorn out of theaters for Chris. At least till I check the butter in it and make sure it ain't 6 days old that they're serving me. But, I don't know if that's possible. Well, listen, I appreciate you. We're going to let you go, and God bless you, and our prayers.
God bless you, Chris.
Peace
Thank you
and
so
truth.
much for having me, and to all your followers. We should all have peace in our day.
You got an open door here always, and we'll get you back on this summer. And our prayers for the peace of Jerusalem and prayers. Be safe, whatever you do, and we'll be in touch. God bless, friend. Thank you.
God bless. Take care.
You too. That was my dear friend Ruth Goodenheim today, and mercy, want to tear up a little bit. That's a dear lady right there. She is not going to be able to do interviews for about a month. She's got some personal things she's got to deal with, and our prayers for Ruth tonight, but our prayers for all the citizens of Israel. And just listening to that video, we did this today. We recorded this about noon, and neither one of us was aware that it would be tonight. We sort of felt like it'd be a few days that what's happened tonight would happen. But suffice it to say, the people of Israel tonight are very aware of what's going on, and I'm sure that they're on high alert. We need to pray for Ruth and the entire nation of Israel tonight and others. We're going to have a good dawn. Did you get something out of her? Put some fire in the house. That was such a sweet interview. I appreciate her coming on today. I just feel I feel her optimism, and I know that there's a lot of fear and trepidation tonight too, but it's encouraging to hear somebody that lives in Jerusalem, that lives with these threats. You heard her say that just about every day she has to go to the shelter in her house because of the threats, and we don't hear about every threat that goes down in Jerusalem over here, but they're persevering. And I want to just say it again tonight, folks. You know, we've told you this many times. The Bible mentions Israel 767 times. It mentions Jerusalem 800 times in the Bible. Nearly 656 times or 660 times in the Old Covenant, 156 times in the New. Nearly 200 times, I think, in the New. Nearly 800 times when you get down to it, it mentions Jerusalem. It mentions Jacob, a surname of Israel, nearly another 300-400 times. It mentions Zion another 300-400 times. And you start adding all that up. And Israel, or a derivative of her name, her capital city, is mentioned nearly 1,500 times in the Bible. Actually, more than that, probably close to 2,000 times in the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation. I have studied Bible prophecy since I've been a child, and we teach, and we have a morning Bible study that we've been dealing with this very thing. I know what's ahead. I don't have a way of knowing how it's going to look on the ground. I know what the Bible says is coming to that part of the earth. How this gets worked out eventually is in God's hands. But I do know that Israel is in for some dark days. And I know that God is doing some things right now to orchestrate events on this earth to bring her back to himself eventually. And the promises in the Bible are going to come to pass regardless of what voices are out there saying otherwise. But the one thing that I cannot tell you that does not trouble me daily is the fact that this nation right here, which is my nation, that I love dearly, I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be part of the land of the free and the brave. God loves this country. God established America with a destiny on it that can still be fulfilled if we'll get things right spiritually. But we're not mentioned, not once in the Bible. We're not mentioned one time. And while Israel's future is set and Israel's future is certain, and yes, there's going to be some dark days before it comes. There's going to be some tremendous loss, tremendous death. 2/3 of the Jewish race are likely to perish in the Great Tribulation period that's coming on this earth soon. But folks, there is no record of America's restoration. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, because there's a lot of unknowns that have yet to be determined, and I think America itself will determine its future. There are some reasons that I tend to believe that our future is not going to be one of restoration. And again, that's not saying anything to be negative or be a killjoy tonight. But Jesus is coming. And this world that we see tonight that's already in an upheaval, that's already in such a spirit of violence and a spirit of anarchy and a spirit of lawlessness and a spirit of chaos, wars, rumors of wars, and things that we see that the Bible clearly tells us in Matthew 24 are signs that we're nearing the end of this church age. It's going to get worse. Those things are going to get worse. I will tell you this tonight. There's a lot of things that God has He has a reason. He's had a reason to obliterate this country into smithereens. The baby killing, the perversion, the corruption, the apostasy of the church, the apathetic feeling of people, this lackadaisical, no concern for faith. We're so caught up in all these idols and these worthless pursuits of things that don't matter to a hill of beans. But the one thing that we better be careful about tonight, if we don't get destroyed for anything else, let me tell you this: our handling of Israel is going to go a long way in determining that future I just talked about. I'll just leave it at that. And I say it again tonight. I've said it before. Israel's future has been settled in God's Word. It's not going to come without a cost. It's not going to come with a situation where she doesn't experience a travail that she has never experienced before. She's going to go through literal hell before she gets there. She'll be deceived. She'll make a wrong choice. But she's going to come to her senses in the middle part of the tribulation, and she's going to realize her Savior was Jesus Christ. She's going to literally get saved as a nation. The Bible doesn't say that about America. And we better understand tonight the way we handle Israel and the way we protect her, because, see, the reason we were created, one of the reasons that this nation is so blessed and so part of God's plan, is that God knew when He created this little tiny nation way back, nearly 250 years ago, that there would be another nation that would be reformed during our lifetime, and that was Israel in 1948. And she would need a buffer. She would need protection from this sea of Arab hate, just like she's surrounded by tonight. And He knew that America would be that buffer. And that's what America has been called to do. We're doing a better job of it under Trump. But there's been times of this nation's history we've not been that buffer. And we better come to grips with that. We better fulfill that destiny, or our worthlessness will be gone. There won't be any reason for us to be here. And the things that we have done as a nation, most nations in the past have already been destroyed for, and most empires that have done less than what we've done have been destroyed. But I think God's hand has stayed in judgment for one reason right now, because He still has designed this nation to be connected to that other beautiful nation on that flag. And I think we need to leave our show with that tonight. We have been going 2.5 hours. We've been grateful that you've been here tonight. My goodness. Any questions? Any statements tonight? Any statements? That was a great interview with Ruth. We're actually going to probably play that tomorrow on our radio show, 2 o'clock, K-Star Talk Radio. We will be discussing it. We'll probably replay her interview. This will be the story. I've jokingly told you we wake up every day. We don't know from one day to the next. That's why I've been sort of slow to book guests, because I never know what's going to happen during the day. I wait till the afternoon to figure out who I'm going to have on, because I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. Look, it's 11:30 tonight in America. It's already getting close to daylight in Israel and the Middle East, and we don't know what's ahead before we get up in the morning. And so a lot will be determined we was not really planning on being on tomorrow night, but I feel like we'll probably have a late show. If nothing else, just to take your questions and comments and update you on this situation in Israel. I want to thank Leslie Millwee tonight. She was so good. James Akers, thank you, buddy. And Ruth Goodenheim. You couldn't have asked for a better lineup of people tonight on this show. I want to thank all the people that were listening. We had a record crowd tonight. We hit 430, 440. That wasn't even counting Rumble tonight. We're pushing close to 500 live viewers tonight. And I want to thank all you that spent the time with us. I know we've been going a little long tonight. Very troublesome times, folks. Very serious times. We may do a prayer thing tomorrow night. I'm not sure. You need to be very alert this weekend in the cities. We need to do a prayer event, but this thing with Israel tonight, I really wanted to do something tonight, but it just didn't work out. But we will see what we can do. We may just take your prayers in the chat room and read a few tomorrow night, and that might be what we do tomorrow evening, to pray for our country, pray for Israel, and pray for the situation Saturday. All I can tell you is pray for the peace of Jerusalem, the soon return of the Lord Jesus Christ, because he's coming back. He's coming back. May the Lord bless you tonight. Heavenly Father, we thank you for touching our nation tonight. Lord, as we go out of here with prayer, we just ask you to protect Israel tonight. Father, we thank you for wisdom in the leadership of America and Israel. We thank you for the grace and to restore America back to its original destiny. Father, help us stand firm with the nation of Israel right now and to do what's right by your word and to recognize our role in destiny. Help your church, Father, come to its senses in this country. And I pray again for the protection of our nation over the weekend. And I pray you protect your people and just put a hedge of protection around all that's listening to us tonight. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. And as they say, all of God's people can say amen. And our prayers for all that are involved tonight. Did you enjoy the show? We've had a good show tonight. If you enjoyed the show, give us a thumbs up out there. Give us a thumbs up tonight. 92-8 is our final poll. We had 104 votes. And that's the final tally. 92-7 looks like 92-8. It's got to be 8. Simply because it's 100%. I am curious why the 8% don't think Israel was justified in attacking Iran. McFiles Forum, you're welcome to chime in and let us know why you don't think Israel was justified in doing this. In this CIA talk, folks, and this Q talk, and this conspiracy talk, and this is the wrong dojo to be bringing that kind of stuff in to the dojo. We're not that kind of show. We don't deal in that. You can believe that. We don't get angry at you if you believe it. But if we don't acknowledge your comment, it's because we don't believe it. Because there's a spiritual reason what's going on tonight in the Middle East. It's not the CIA. Trust me on that. Everybody's got to find a boogeyman. Everybody's got to find something to question. Why don't we just accept the fact we live in an evil world and there are forces that want to see Israel and the United States destroyed? And if Iran would have gotten that nuclear bomb, this world would have changed overnight into a place that I don't think anybody would have been safe in any part of this planet. And Iran's not the only ones. The Saudis, we've got an interview on the X account tonight. I uploaded it. The Saudi Arabian prince said, I think it was a recent interview, he said, if Iran gets the bomb, we're getting one too. You would have had a nuclearized Middle East. You would have had a nuclearized Middle East, and then all bets are off. So, do I support what Israel did? Yep, I sure do. I sure do. And I think that we had better come to grips. We live in an evil world, and there are people that want to do us harm, and we've got to address that. That's why we have government. I pray for the government of Israel tonight to make the right decisions, and I pray for our government to make the right decisions too. We live in a dangerous world, and I love you. I hope you enjoyed this show tonight. We'll see you late tomorrow night sometime. And we may be on early in the morning on the Bible study, but join us on the radio tomorrow. You'll hear Ruth Goodenheim's interview again, and we'll have some other clips too as well. May the Lord bless you tonight. I've been so grateful to be with you. This extended McFiles Thursday night with the coverage. I'm just going to go out of here with the opening because we're running a little late. But I hope you have a good evening. Put some fire in that house. McFilesforum@gmail.com. If you enjoyed the show, put some fire in that house, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. And anything that we need to update, we'll update. If we need to break in and do something, we'll definitely break in tomorrow as well. Have a good night, everybody.